Auzubillahiminashaitanirajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is me, Alisha Abid. Today we are going to discuss about the Central Processing Unit as CPU. Central Processing Unit. So here three pictures. One is microprocessor, the second is the chip, and the third is the processor. These are the features of Central Processing Unit. What is CPU? The CPU is a portion of a computer system that carries out the instructions of the computer program to perform the basic arithmetical logic and input-output operations of the system. Brief history. CPU history starts in 1971 when Intel for the first time combined multiple transistors to form a central processing unit microprocessor named Intel 4044. After 8 years, first personal computer was introduced. Today, there are several different manufacturers of computers processors. However, Intel and AMD are the leaders in the PC market. Functions of CPU. CPU receives information from input devices and keeps them in memory. It processes the input information, it calculates the result, it places the result in memory, it gives the results to output units. Units of CPU. There are three units of CPU: arithmetic and logic unit, control unit, and memory unit. Here the picture we see the blocks in control unit, memory unit, output unit, arithmetic and logic unit, and input unit. Explanation. ALU. This unit performs arithmetic and logic operations. Arithmetic system calculated, add, subtract, divide, and logic system can maintain difference between two figures. CU. It controls all the activities of a computer system with the help of operational and control instruction. MU. This unit is used for temporarily and permanently store data and to help programs use again and again. Important fact. The CPU is a small square unit that sits behind the fan. The fan keeps the CPU from overheating. Here the picture of small fan you can see here, and it protects from overheating. Inner side of CPU. Here's the DVD burner, power supply, graphics card, CPU heatsink, DVD burner, big fan 1, hard drive 1, big fan 2, hard drive 2. Computer CPU. Here the picture of CPU we use at our homes. This CPU is different in shape from laptop CPU. New type of CPU. This type of CPU sees in the laptops or in the computer books. CPU registers. Data registers is used basically to store data. Index register used to store the index of memory address. Condition registers are used to determine whether his instruction should execute or not. Constant registers. Constant registers are used to store read-only values. Storage registers holds the information on its way to and form the main memory. Input and output registers communicates with the input-output devices. Clock pulses. The CPU is driven by one or more repetitive clock circuits that send a stream of pulses throughout the CPU's circuitry. The CPU uses these clock pulses to synchronize its operations. Data width. If the data is 8-bit ALU, then it can add, subtract, multiply, etc. to 8-bit numbers, while a 32-bit ALU data can manipulate 32-bit numbers, and 8-bit data would have to execute 4 instructions to add to 32-bit ALU can do it in one instruction. So now is MIPS, stands for millions of instructions per second, and is rough measures of the CPU speed. Here the picture of this feature. Math coprocessor. Math coprocessors were additional chips. This additional coprocessors allows the hardware for floating point math. Math coprocessors will speed your computer's overall processing utilizing software applications. operation. CPU termed computer brain or powerful calculator is execute a sequence of stored instructions called a program. This program is in the form of numbers which is placed in computer memory. Phases of CPU. There are 4 phases of CPU operations: fetch instruction, decode instruction, execute instruction, and results. CPU instruction operations. Fetch instructions is dealing with retrieving an instruction from main memory. After an instruction is fetched, the PC is incremented in memory locations. Decode. Decode fetches data is broken up into parts which are related to other portions of the CPU. This is termed as opcode, indicates which operation to perform. CPU operations. Execute. After decode steps, the execute step is performed. During this step, various portions of the CPU are connected so they can perform the desired option. Results. The final step is return. The execute step will be kept in memory registers and then extends to output devices for display. CPU circuit. A CPU circuit uses a series of points to contact a CPU's processor, that the PC's motherboard. If a CPU is connected via a CPU circuit, it is not soldered and can therefore be replaced. CPU circuits are more common with desktop PCs than they are on laptops. You can see 2 different circuits. Data width. If the data is 8-bit ALU, then it can add, subtract, multiply, etc. to 8-bit numbers, while a 32-bit ALU data can manipulate 32-bit numbers, and 8-bit data would have to execute. Internal system and CPU of Mac Pro. Here's the internal system of the Mac Pro, which everyone's mostly favorites. Information about Mac Pro. Mac Pro is designed for pros who need the ultimate in CPU performance. At the heart of the system is an Intel Xeon processor with up to 28 cores, the most now ever in a Mac. In addition, larger L2 and shared L3 caches and 64 PCL express lanes provide massive bandwidth in and out of the processor. Thank you.